Howdy.
Don't grab the mic.
No, mate, you just speak into it.
All right, we're in a.
And your name is?
Oh, excuse me. I'm Roger Horde with West Houston Association.
Good.
And
What's your
my
question,
question is about livable centers. We're in one. The question is, what conditions need to be met to create them? Will we see more of them? What sustains livable centers?
Thanks, mate.
You're welcome.
Let me speak to that a little bit. I think as a builder, we build in 14 markets around the southeast part of the country, and we probably build in more master plan communities than any builder in the country because we're the only ones that'll put up with all the requirements that these guys put on us. And we're very patient, and we'll do the design. We got 30 architects that work with them, and so we'll do all that stuff where a lot of the major production builders won't put up with that or don't have the opportunity to. And so we build in city centers in Miller and Austin, in Denver and Lowry and Stapleton, in Tampa, in Orlando. And so we have the opportunity to build in these kind of higher density mixed use developments in a number of places. And we've seen them that work and we've seen them that fail. And the reality is you've got to have, from my perspective, and there are developers here that know more, I just know it from a builder standpoint in terms of what has worked for us, is to obviously have a density of people and enough population base to serve the retail. Because if the retail fails, and sometimes it does in these communities, and it just doesn't work. If you don't have enough people there to support the retail. And so and the retailers can tell you that pretty quickly. They've gotten very efficient at this. And so having that support and having that retail support's there. And then also it allows a developer, if they do decide to do this, to bring in different housing styles closer, because the whole walkability of a community makes all the difference in the world. I mean, I would not go and put townhomes in a farther out suburban community, or as we like to call it, God's country. I would not go put that in a farther out suburban community, townhomes, unless there's some type of urban feeling core that gives a reason that, my 30-year-old son might want to be out there. And that even though if they have young kids or young couples, they still want to feel like they're young and might not necessarily want to move to the traditional house in the subdivision. And so being able to offer housing transitions as well as move down buyers, maybe there's the grandparents want to get close to the grandkids and want to travel to Houston twice a year, and they can buy a townhome and not be in the kids' home but still be there. I mean, there are all kinds of needs for a variety of housing styles. In the early 80s, 60% of our housing that we were doing in Houston was patio homes. And we've kind of gotten away from that some, but I think that's going to come back, and because there's lots of opportunity for different housing styles that I'm not sure that we fully explored when the market was as hot as it should be. I think we as developers and builders need to do a better job finding those niches in different areas.
Clearly, population density has a whole lot to do with livable centers. I think the right location relative to transportation has to be there. If you could imagine city center pre-current I-10, what it would be like, it would be a big mess. You couldn't get here. And we don't need more of that. But one of the things that has changed to a large degree, and Tom talked about it at lunch, is retail. Retailers have really started to figure it out. They're putting their stores where people live. They're not making you go to their store anymore. And that's why you see smaller stores in the communities. And that's why the lifestyle centers are sprouting up in the Woodlands or Cinco Ranch or Sugarland Town Square. And there's also great opportunity, and I think we'd all be remiss if we don't talk about, we need redevelopment within the city of Houston. We cannot just sustain the growth of this region with suburban development. That is not what it's going to be about over the next 20, 30 years. A lot of redevelopment will occur, and livable centers should be a part of that redevelopment. And I do remember the last thing I was going to tell you about you need to do, and it's you've got to have an HOA. and I hate HOAs. Peter Houghton's back there laughing. He knows why. You have to have some rules, and you have to enforce them. You can't let one deter from the many. And they are extremely important to the long-term sustainability of neighborhoods. And the developer or the developer builder has to take the time, spend the money to grow those HOA people and the board members. It just doesn't happen overnight.
Tyrone wants to ask a question. He's come all the way from Atlanta and he's got his own drink here, so.
Coffee, not, I didn't hit the bar early, but Tyrone Rochelle from the Atlanta Development Authority. Ted, you just hit on a point that we're experiencing in Atlanta, and I wanted to see how Houston was handling this. What we're seeing is that there is an increase in the flight into urban cores, where we're finding that in addition to outside growth to our city, the organic growth as college students graduate and we retain that knowledge and skill set, they want to live downtown. I'm wondering if you're seeing that phenomenon here, and if you are, how are you planning for it in your development patterns and how you actually build residential units for this population?
Well, I'll shoot from the lip here. We're definitely seeing that pattern. There are multiple thousand homes rebuilt and built new inside the city of Houston today. David has an in-town program, as do many builders. I'm sure Mike Inselman can actually give us the stats. My opinion, in the city of Houston, we're probably not doing a real good job. We have a very, what I think is an antiquated system of ordinances relative to redevelopment. I would much prefer, and I don't play in this arena, so I can just, I guess, say whatever I want to.
It wouldn't stop you anyway.
It would be nice for our folks that do the redevelopment work, and again, we have to have this, to have a new roadmap to work from, one that is self-contained. You don't have to go to 16 different locations in the codes to find out what you need to do or not need to do. So,
Let me comment just a bit on that, because we have started building in the city in the last 5 years and set up a division for that because we have seen more demand inner city. And as we're running the numbers and kind of learning how to build in the inner city, it's been very interesting to me that the reality is there are different codes for inside Loop 610 and just outside Loop 610. And the realities are we can build up to 25 to 27 units per acre density, which allows us to get our costs down and meet more of a market inside. You jump just outside Loop 610, that number goes down to 14 due to compensating open spaces, lot size requirements, et cetera, et cetera. And so it does weird things with land values, because how much more can you pay if you're just inside and you can do double the density versus outside? It means that, you know, the huge amount of land between 610 and Highway 6, where there could be a lot of great redevelopment, is not really being redeveloped in any sense because the economics don't work. So if there are any city officials out there, this is something that ULI could work on, or they could work on, or I've tried to a little bit alone, and it's kind of lonely down there. So it's just something I've discovered in the last few years. But there's a tremendous opportunity because there are lots of folks that would like to live in close to the city, and that's kind of good for our transportation. It's good for a lot of reasons. But we need to make sure that we have the systems in place to do it. And in fact, Houston, for as open and free as it is in a lot of areas, we can do a lot better in Dallas doing urban development, or in Orlando, or in a lot of other markets as compared with Houston, which is a little bit odd compared to how we think about ourselves.